The following story and photos are from GiantPandaKing's book, Gotham 1919 to 1939, by Russell S. Beatty, available from www.giantpandaking.com. Viewer discretion is advised. Gotham City had already seen much craziness by the time 1933 arrived. Masked vigilantes, mob bosses, costume criminals, and corrupt city officials had all contributed to the chaos, but no one suspected much. In the minds of its citizens, Gotham had always been this way, and Gotham would always be this way. In the early days of Gotham, namely 1865 to 1866, some wealthy slave owners in the Confederate U.S. moved north with their wealth once it became obvious that the Confederate States would lose the Civil War. They spread far and wide throughout the United States. Some of these families settled in Gotham City to start their new life, but it did not take long for them to realize that they were still viewed negatively by many. This was mainly due to their white nationalist beliefs and tendencies. They did not want to change their ways, and they sought to find new avenues in which to continue living their deplorable lifestyle. They felt ostracized, and so they determined that they would band together. They formed the Owl Creek Country Club, exclusively for the wealthy elite who had come from the South. In a mixture of European tradition and New World ambitions, they chose the owl god Moloch as their symbol. They would perform ceremonies and rituals to the god. Owl Creek stayed very internalized for decades until their numbers began to dwindle. They then began reaching out to the established wealthy families in Gotham and across the United States. They didn't care about gender. Men and women were allowed membership alike, but they maintained their all-white policy. Membership was very demanding. Owl Creek expected its constituents to donate 15% of their wealth upon their deaths. Each member, upon their acceptance into the group, was given a white mask shaped like the face of a barn owl. Also among its constituents, they were known colloquially as the Court of Owls. They were very particular about their members. If one had proven to be irresponsible with their wealth or even just lean that direction, they were denied membership. They valued individuals who understood the difference between being rich or being wealthy. Rich people would spend frivolously with no thought of the future, only of satisfying their base desires, while wealthy people would save their money, keeping it in the family for generations. They valued longevity of wealth highly, and shunned anyone who would threaten that. Their reach was far and wide. While their base of operations was Gotham, they allegedly had other chapters throughout the U.S. An example of this would be the owl god Moloch found in the dollar bill as a result of the court's influence. One of the ways they lived this longevity of wealth out was by constantly seeking investments in a number of things. One such investment was in the new and quickly growing Nazi Party in Germany. Many other wealthy Americans also donated to them, such as Henry Ford, who may have been a member of the court. It is rumored that another chapter of the court helped fund the 1939 Nazi rally in Madison Square Garden years later. This rally combined Nazi propaganda with American patriotism in an effort to win people over to their philosophies and cause. Being before World War II, no one was aware of the horrors to come at the hands of the Nazis. The members of the Nazi Party that came to America were even treated as celebrities by some. Charles Cionus was one of Owl Creek's denied prospects. He'd known of the court's existence for years, but he failed to meet their criteria. He was much too frivolous for their tastes. Charles was instead forced to join the False Face Society, one of the less zealous white nationalist societies at the time. The members of the FFS were old and tired, while Owl Creek constantly brought in new blood. The FFS was the poor man's Owl Creek Country Club. Charles had a real issue with jealousy towards one man in particular, Thomas Wayne. The elder Cionus was forced to watch in resentment as Thomas was offered membership to Owl Creek, but turned it down in disgust. Thomas Wayne was a man of principle, and he would not allow himself to be associated with white nationalism and supremacy. Charles, seeing this, unsuccessfully tried to offer Thomas a position in the FFS, but with the same outcome. Thomas and Martha Wayne shunned anyone who even had an inkling of involvement with either group. They shielded their son, Bruce, from it as much as they could. Thomas had grown up with, gone to school with, and worked with his close friend Lucius Fox, so the concept of white nationalism was abhorrent to him. He didn't want those ideals seeping into his son's life, poisoning his mind. This worked, and Bruce grew up completely unaware of the existence of the Owl Creek Country Club. With Charles Cionus' passing, his son Roman soon joined the FFS, scornful of the Court of Owls. When he eventually became the leader of the FFS, he created his new persona, Black Mask, and fashioned his cowl after the masks given to each member of the country club. His mask was molded in the likeness of a raven after Edgar Allan Poe's poem, and also like a distorted version of the court's masks. This was intended as a proverbial "fuck you" to the members of Owl Creek. Not that it affected them much. They barely gave Black Mask and the FFS any thought at all. As Owl Creek grew and evolved, so did their plans and ambitions. The leaders of the club realized that with all their power and resources, they had opportunities to influence the city officials, politics, and infrastructure of the city. They took it upon themselves as a calling to guide the history of Gotham, to control its every facet. These leaders of the court were considered the elite within their club, and their decisions influenced much of the group's goals and activity. The court purchased a lot of land, and even some islands, digging their claws deep into Gotham and the surrounding area. They instigated numerous new regulations for the members of Owl Creek. Members were now expected to make each meeting a priority, drop all pretenses of responsibility outside the group, and take part in the strange and arcane rituals practiced by its very first members. This last requirement was a dark reflection of the original practices of Owl Creek. The court now drilled into them the belief in the owl god Moloch, and mandated that ceremonies and ritual sacrifices to the owl god were mandatory. The sacrifices were usually only effigies made to look like specific individuals, but the ill intent towards those individuals was still present. If one of their members decided they wanted no part of it, a Talon would soon come for them. One of the most horrendous and deplorable practices of the Court of Owls was its process for creating and training Talons. Talons were the foot soldiers and muscle for the court. They carried out thefts, assassinations, and general dirty work for Owl Creek. Armed to the teeth and well-versed in stealth, they were ruthlessly efficient. They would leave no trace, and often police and newspapers would chalk it up to the random violence that Gotham was used to. All the same, rumors circulated through Gotham of a shadow society influencing the city's workings. This is where the nursery rhyme found its origin. Beware the Court of Owls that watches all the time, ruling from their shadowed perch behind granite and lime. They watch you at your hearth, they watch you in your bed. Speak not a word of them, or the Talon will strike you dead. The creation of these Talons was degrading. The court would press gang black men into indentured servitude, brainwash them, and turn them into weapons. If the members of the club were to be the Court of Owls, they would need Talons to execute their will. During the daytime, these brainwashed men were groundskeepers at the Owl Creek Country Club, but under cover of night, they would carry out the missions mandated to them by the court. The horrors reaped upon them in the brainwashing process would break most men, but the Talons had no say in the matter. Even though slavery had been abolished after the Civil War, no other word could be used to describe what the court put these men through. They received daily beatings and verbal abuse, constantly being reminded they were not free to leave. They were told that they were property of the court now and always. It took a toll on the minds of the black men subjugated to the court, although it would eventually come back to bite them. The Court of Owls was allegedly responsible for numerous mishaps throughout the 19th and 20th centuries, in Gotham and across the United States, according to their ledgers and accounts of business. Some purported victims of their ire were Basil Carlo, Kirk Langstrom, and Victor Fries. They were also purportedly involved in other disasters, such as the Great Molasses Flood in Boston circa 1919, and the sinking of the SS Lady Elgin in Chicago in 1860. It's even rumored that the court may have been involved, if not responsible, for the stock market crash of 1929. It may have been an effort on their part to consolidate power. The court has many other disasters across the United States listed in their accounts, though how many are credible is unknown. It shows that their influence was quite widespread, even if the main hub of their activity was Gotham. They seem to have had multiple chapters with many members, some of them quite famous. It is rumored that Buster Keaton, the movie actor, may have been a member. He may have lost his desire to be a part of the atrocities they were committing, which could have resulted in the fading of his career until 1949. The court considered itself the ultimate authority in Gotham, and this is why the appearance of the Batman in 1919 infuriated them. They had been previously uncontested in their business until the Bat began to unknowingly dismantle the system they had spent decades building. They had successfully made Gotham dependent on them without the city even realizing it. The Batman represented a threat to them, and they began to see the city become more independent, more free of their grasp. The court dreaded the loss of power that seemed to be on the horizon, and so they deemed it necessary to hatch a new plan. This plan would allow them to wipe the slate clean and start fresh, while regaining control of Gotham. The Batman, mostly unaware of their existence, was about to face one of the biggest challenges of his crime-fighting career. He would be helpless to stop some of the bloodshed, but the city would need him for what was coming. The Batman would need all of his training and all of his wits to overcome the Court of Owls.